people have an idea and they start to see a little bit of success, and your immediate temptation is, I'm going to go sell it to as many people as I possibly can. And I'd say, hold on until you have product market fit. What product market fit looks like is that your customers are actually echoing back to you the promise that you made when you made the sale. And when you say, would you buy this again? You hear words like love, amazing, can't live without it. Yeah. You hear these magic emotional words.
Right.
Guard your equity. Like, be generous with cash. Don't be generous with equity.
Yeah.
Equity doesn't motivate people to do a better job. You're not going to get better results out of somebody by giving them more equity.
Yep. Equity only dilutes. You can't add to equity, right? So, but you can always get more cash through investors or selling more, right? Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Otherwise, you could be a founder exiting your company and owning like 0.5% or something.
Oh my gosh.
Your own company.
People, listeners and viewers, what he just said, because how many times this week have I said it, Tyler, in the teaching? It's so, there's like two ways to go. The way you win is the way we believe things should be done. Conserve your equity. Be careful with it. Going down this path where you raise tons of money, you get a pre-seed investment, then a seed investment, then another seed investment, then a Series A, a Series B, a Series C. Those entrepreneurs, and then when there's this huge exit, who makes all the money?
Yeah. Investors.
Yeah. People don't understand. It's very common for those founders to have in the single percentiles of their company.
Welcome to the Startup Ignition podcast, where we are helping you on your startup journey from literally everything from idea to exit. I am Tyler Richards. This is John Richards. We are
hello.
We are your co-hosts. You know us by now. We are very, 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 very old news. That's not a jab at John, but just we are old news together.
Yeah, you keep calling me OG, and then I found out you mean old guy, not original gangster.
OJ.
OJ, old John. Yeah. But today we have a super exciting guest who I'm very excited to talk to, because I don't feel like I've talked to you I know you're way closer to Scott than I am, but we have Scott Johnson, and I have a bio. I don't know if you saw it. Hopefully you approved the bio. Was it okay?
It's great.
It's great. We're thumbsing up live in real time. But today we're honored to have Scott Johnson, founder of Workfront and now Motivosity. He is a seasoned angel investor, entrepreneur, mentor, visionary, and professor. Can you claim that yet? Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. And Scott obviously is most well known for your founding of Workfront, which has been a huge success here in the Utah ecosystem and startup landscape.
Bonafide unicorn.
That started back in 2001. I did some research. Is that about right? Mm-hmm. And it was formerly known as @Task when I was going to school and around the startup scene and getting into it. That's what I knew you as. But in November, just recently, in November of 2020, was it acquired? Is that the date of the acquisition?
Yeah, finalized in mid-December 2020.
December of 2020 is the official date. So Workfront was acquired by Adobe, and I think it was reported, right? It was a $1.5 billion acquisition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a huge success. And congrats to Scott. That's so awesome. Marking one of the largest Utah tech acquisitions, I feel like, in Utah's history.
Got to be a top 10, something like that.
For sure, right? And since then, you have launched Motivosity, which I'm excited to launch into and learn more about, which I've actually talked to you a few times about. But so you also are an entrepreneurship professor at BYU. You actively are investing in the Utah landscape and early stage founders. And maybe pending investment into our fund. Wink, 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 wink. Right?
I knew that was coming.
But no, we're so excited to have Scott. So everybody, let's welcome Scott to the podcast.
And just a nice guy.
Yeah, all around great dude. He's been super supportive of what we've been doing. I feel like my whole career, you've been super supportive of me. I've been around you since my college days, and obviously just from your friendship with my dad, we've been around each other forever. So I don't know how long you guys have known each other for, but it's got to be
goes back to his going 2002-ish, I think, when he was pitching @Task.
Oh yeah, that's right. John didn't invest in my company.
I didn't invest in it. What the heck?
Sore subject.
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh. And I know. I clearly remember down at a meeting of Utah Valley Economic Forum, UVE okay, that you were there with some other co-founders and you pitched me right there after one of the meetings and all that, and I should have invested.
The story I heard hundreds of times was Microsoft will ruin you guys. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
That is probably a sore and very bad blip on John's past, but it's okay.
But it's also interesting just because, that was, you were one of the entrepreneurs coming out with an incredible SaaS company that at the dawn of Utah's 20-year run of being one of the SaaS capitals of the world, right? And you were right part and parcel making that happen for Utah, which was incredible. Yeah.
Well, okay. Before we get into the story, because I want to take it back before Workfront, I'm going to take it back to you on Scott. But before we do that, Scott, we were just chatting right before we started filming for that episode that he's watched a few and he's like, what are we doing for the rapid fire questions? What are we doing for the icebreaker today? So I'm going to break it on Scott right now live. We're going to do an icebreaker. And I have 5 questions that I want actually both of you guys to answer.
Okay.
So John's going to participate. So it's not just you.
All right.
But today we're going to do just a real quick rapid fire. What do you think? And here goes. First one. I have 5 questions. What's one daily habit you have that maybe would surprise people? Like journaling. Are you cold plunging these days? I don't know. Stretching. What do you do? What do you do every day that's someone wouldn't really know? So it can't be like I brush my teeth.
Yeah. I don't think exercise counts either. So I'll make a small portion of what I do. I hang for 2 minutes.
Oh,
what do you
like
mean?
a bar hang?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Oh man, it helps my lower back feel better.
Yeah.
I like to play golf.
Yeah.
And it just stretches me out. Like I can't live without it.
Really? How is it in a doorway, a bar or
Just
something?
a bar, just like
And it's in the doorway up top?
it's really boring. You just grab it and hang.
What
there.
kind of bar is it that
Sit
holds
there
the
and
weight
think.
and does that and all that? Is it-
I've got one on my all-in-one gym system. So,
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it's just like
we just
So
moved, but in
120
our other house. It was something I mounted on the
door frame.
120 seconds, and what does it do?
Just stretches you out.
Stretch it in the
you
back
know,
and
my
all that?
knuckles were hurting. They don't hurt anymore. It helps a lot of joints.
I mean, you're building up strength if you do that consistently, for sure.
Yeah, I
Wow,
think so.
interesting. Okay, I'm doing it. I'm gonna start doing
there you
that.
go.
Funny, funny.
Wait, what? You
Go
want to
for
hear
it.
mine?
Well,
okay,
okay,
go
yeah.
ahead. What
But
were
funny
you saying?
story before we go to yours. Just this weekend, or last weekend, we were at a park, and so we were waiting for my son to get over with his baseball practice on the weekend. And I challenged my daughters to do the monkey bars. I'm like, oh, do all the way across. And if you do it all the way across, we'll go get shaved ice. One of my daughters is a gymnast. She flew through it. My other daughter is kind of taller and like a little bit
And
like,
older.
And older. And so, but she couldn't even do 2 bars. And so I'm like, okay, for you to get shaved ice, just hang on the bar for 10 seconds. And it was a crying moment. And it was like 2 seconds, 4 seconds. I'm like, you can do more, 7 seconds. And finally she hit the 10 seconds, but like 2 minutes, that's a long time.
I actually love that idea because for the first time ever recently, a little bit of lower back pain when I'm playing pickleball. So I think I need my lumbar section to stretch out a little.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do that.
Okay, so what's your habit?
Mine is I play chess every day, at least one game.
Yeah.
So I'm chess.com and I love chess. I've always loved chess. And I can't go to bed without at least playing one game so I can keep because they'll send you a message, don't ruin your 200-day streak.
What's your rank?
Well, it depends in blitz or full games. I've been as high as 1,400, but I fall down to 1,100 sometimes if I'm weak. So, yeah. Do you like to play chess too?
I'm not. I'm
Not a
good
huge
at
chess guy.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What is your favorite? Do you have a laptop sticker or a water bottle sticker or any kind of sticker from anywhere that you've put anywhere? What's your favorite sticker?
All my favorite stickers are from Glacier National Park.
Glacier National Park. My wife is a huge national park sticker collector. Every time we go to national park, she's grabbing one. How about you? Do you have any stickers?
Startup Ignition.
Startup Ignition.
Oh yeah, what am I thinking? I have a Motivosity sticker too.
Motivosity. Yeah. Okay. What's your first investor-backed dollar spent on? When you're raising a round, what is the first dollar going out being spent on?
Legal fees.
Legal
Does that
fees.
count?
Yes. To close the financing docs.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Well, should I ask you the same thing, or are you going to say the same answer?
Yeah, in raising money, you got to pay for the formation and the closing of the financing, and the lawyers
All
like
right,
to
you
get
got
their,
me on that one.
the lawyers like to get their money, don't they?
Oh, yeah. It might even be the first before the first dollars.
Exactly.
Okay, next. Here we go. Fourth question. What is your startup founder spirit animal?
Ooh.
If you had to pick one.
Startup founder spirit animal. That is good.
What are you? You can be anything.
Like Tigger.
Tigger, like tiger and Tigger?
No, Tigger.
Like Tigger
The
specific?
Not quite a tiger. More like Tigger.
Bouncing around Tigger. Okay, how about you, Dad?
I was thinking, I just leopard comes to mind because I just like they tend to operate, not in packs and groups. And I don't know. I just think when I've been an entrepreneur, my own deals, it's kind of like I'm the one pushing it through and making a lot of it happen. And it just seems like, you know what I'm saying? That's just what comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, last one. Here we go. What is the last Netflix show or movie that you binged or watched during like a break or time off or downtime? This is not startup centric at all.
Yeah, no, if it has to be Netflix.
Well, okay, any show. Because I love Apple TV. I'm a huge Apple TV fan.
Yeah, me too. We have, I binged American Primeval recently.
Oh, yeah. I saw that too. That was good. How about you?
I can't remember the name of it. It has 3 seasons to it, and I just saw it, and I couldn't stop watching it. It's not the cleanest show in the world either. It had the one where they were in Thailand at a resort.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what is that called?
I couldn't stop watching it.
Oh man, what is that called? I know exactly. It has the guy from Mike White. Oh my gosh, what is that? Okay, I'm looking it up. Right
You're looking it up right now.
We can edit this.
It was just a compelling story, and the way they
The White Lotus.
the White Lotus,
White
and
Lotus.
and the way
I've
they
never even heard of that.
yeah, the way they told it out of time sequence a little is so intriguing because you want to know. They start with a calamity event, and then they go back and show the week before everything that happened leading up to it, kind of thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
and it's always
cool
at a resort.
Mine has been the Severance series. I just kind of binged Severance season 2. So if you
So fun fact, they were just filming an episode of Severance in our building in
What?
Lehigh.
What?
Yeah.
For like
Really?
Severance
Yeah.
season 3?
Yeah, the main guy was walking in our front door. Our cameras were rolling.
In Adobe?
No, over in Innovation Point,
In Innovation
For
Point?
Motivosity.
For
where our
Motivosity?
building is.
That's crazy.
I don't know what it's.
Why
What that's
Utah?
about? I have no idea.
I mean, you could have that office space
That-
anywhere.
That guy was there. He was in our parking lot.
That is crazy.
Cameras were rolling.
Utah's on film.
Oh my
Oh,
word.
wow.
That's crazy. I got to watch out for that. Season 3, guys. You heard it first. Utah, Severance. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to go all the way back. Let's dive into Scott's history and past because I don't know. You can take it back as far as you want, but like, where did obviously Workfront in 2001, but what happened before that? Like, what brought you to Workfront and where were you? What have you
What's
been
your
doing?
career like?
Yeah,
when you went into college, and where'd you grow up
Yeah.
in college and all that? Yeah.
Short career synopsis. So I graduated from BYU with a degree in Near Eastern Studies,
Wow.
which is just, launched my tech career.
Yeah, with Near Eastern Studies.
We did projects like a senior project. We were translating Dead Sea Scrolls. And so it was that kind of,
Did you have
I
to
wanted-
learn languages? Is
yeah,
that-
Hebrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, biblical Hebrew.
Do you know that still or keep up with that?
I can read it. It's not something I speak.
Was
but
it earning?
I can read it.
Was it using technology to do it? Any technology?
No.
Okay, just you had to know
Yes.
Hebrew and you went
you're
through
just
the
like
text.
very
Okay.
tedious work.
Wow.
Yeah, so my plan was I wanted to be a seminary teacher and graduated and didn't get hired to be a seminary teacher, and I had no plan B. I always had a couple of jobs, like 2 or 3 jobs at any given time while I was going through college.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit of a creative. I was a graphic designer, and I was also a computer salesman and kind of a techie guy. And so I started a video production company. And digital video is new thing back then. And
You were a videographer, actually, or
Yeah,
did you
well,
post-process the videos?
what we wanted to do was make mountain biking videos in Park City. This was way before Red Bull. And we're like, hey, digital video, it's a perfect match for outdoor extreme sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. And getting into that, I kind of got this vision of myself as a weekends wedding videographer to get by and make ends meet. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And the company offered to buy all my equipment and hired me to set up a studio for them. I did that. I ended up becoming a marketing guy for them. And internet was brand new.
Right.
So as a marketer, I'm thinking, hey, the marketers might use the internet someday. Like, this seems like it has potential. Nobody had a website. And anyway, just kind of dug in and figured it out. And I loved the technology, and it made sense. And I just, kind of buried myself in it and learned how to do a lot of stuff. And that company failed, not because of my marketing, other business reasons. But from there, we started a digital, it was an interactive agency is what we called it. It was like a marketing agency that was very web focused and
like basically creating web landing pages and
websites and web solutions for companies, for corporations. We were the agency that they would outsource to. And built that, and I think we got to about 25 employees.
And you were one of the co-founders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And people are calling us, can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, we got to figure out who's doing what.
Where was that? What city was that?
It was
in?
up in, our little office was in Springville.
Springville. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So we were doing that, and it just, like, to me, it seemed a shame that we didn't have our clients in the loop and had, the accountability on approvals and just visibility on work that was going on. It just seemed like there should be a solution. So I started working on writing software like nights and weekends. And that was really my first real programming.
Yeah.
Was that.
What's the timeline here? What years are these?
We're talking 1995 to 96. Well, 96 to 97.
Right as Netscape was about to go public and the internet era was born.
Yeah, this was like really, really early still. And these are, we're doing web things for companies that this is their first web ever effort. And so.
And what languages were you coding in?
Well, the very first version wasn't like, you'll laugh. Remember the old database app called Fox?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, so Fox database.
Yeah, it was Fox.
I don't.
And then,
it was one of the leading database. If you had to build a database, Fox was super prominent back in the day.
So it was Fox, and then it was just like dying under the load. So learned how to program in Java and did a Java backend interfacing with that, and then migrated off of that to MySQL, and then it was kind of a legit platform. But anyway, working on that, some of our customers were like, "Hey, this software you guys are using is cool. Like, where can I buy it?" And that was where the entrepreneurial light went off in my mind. You can either bill for services over and over, forever.
Be a service business
Contract
or a product
work,
company.
yeah.
Or you can write the software and sell it over and over again. And that was what I wanted to do. And so I actually left and started, it was at Task at the time.
Really?
Uh-huh. And you
went from basically a web development company for hire, a contracted web development company, and said, I want to productize this software, not be a service company.
I had a couple of co-founders. They stayed with the agency. Yeah. And, went off. And
so who founded OutTask with you? Was it just you at the beginning?
Yeah,
it was just you. Mm-hmm. And what was the very first problem solution of OutTask?
It was a common sense way to understand work. So at the time there was Microsoft Project, which everybody hated. Mm-hmm. And then there was nothing. So what we solved was a system that creatives could understand. If you've managed creatives, they're not going to use something that's super structured and rigorous and rigid.
Wasn't Microsoft Project like a Gantt chart almost?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. And the whole problem with project management at the time is it says you're going to work on this from 1 to 3 o'clock, and then you're going to seamlessly pick it up at 3 o'clock and do your part. And then that's not how work gets done.
Yeah.
And nobody likes to work that way. So ours was almost the antithesis of the whole project management industry, even though we were selling in the project management category.
But you were trying to change the paradigm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very different. So anyway, I had three little kids.
What month and year did you start that?
Well, the coding on that, it was probably 1999.
Okay.
Yeah, so the split and the official founding of the company was 2001.
Okay. And then you were saying about your family. I cut you off there. Sorry.
Yeah, I had 3 little kids at the time. My wife was stay-at-home mom, didn't have a lot of money, took out a second mortgage on the house, used that to pay for the first employees, maxed out credit cards. And
you didn't fundraise anything at that time?
It was bootstrapped for about 6.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody would give us any money. It was people like John,
Yeah.
Well, no, but
you're going to die.
Circa 2000, 2003, from the dot-com crash started in earnest in March of 2000. So I like to explain this for our listeners, viewers that are newer entrepreneurs, don't have the hindsight of living through this stuff. But so from March of 2000 to about May of 2003, it was extremely hard to raise money.
Yeah, there was a lot of carnage out there too.
The dot-com bust was, everything went to a dizzying height, but it fell just as fast or faster and harder than it rose. So literally, like my company, I've talked about it. My company went, from, pennies a share to $7,000 a share. No joke, but with the thing, and then back down to the bottom in a year.
That's crazy.
Okay. And so it was a .com, and even if we were a legit company with good revenue, no debt, but you got punished if you were .com during that period of March of 2000 till May of 2003. And I think that's when I would have met you, and you would have pitched me at task a little bit and talked to me about it. And we didn't invest in anything because matter of fact, the Utah Angel meetings were gloomy.
Yeah.
Because
did you pitch the
Utah all your existing investments probably had gone from like 100 employees to 3 employees, and
it was it was a very tough time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 05 and 06, which was mostly led by a real estate boom, that the economy came back. Yeah, and it was a tough time. It really was.
And then it crashed again in 08. So.
And then in 08.
Exactly.
Yeah. Keep telling your story. So 3 kids and all this.
I have a question then. Okay. So if you bootstrapped it for 6 years and you were like taking out the mortgage, a second mortgage, and you're really bootstrapping and getting it going on your own, what did you do to find first revenues? Like, were you literally just cold calling businesses and saying, hey, we have this product, here's this thing, like kind of what's still done today, but like what were your tactics in fueling that thing when you made that leap? Like, I'm going to leave the agency, I'm going to go all in on this product. Like, what were you doing?
Well, we were kind of good at marketing.
So you went out and marketed because you were a marketing agency.
Had a good website, so I had had inbound. We were good at SEO, so ranked fairly well with that. But it was direct sales, and it was just our competitors at the time were Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, and Computer Associates were the 3 big ones.
If you went 6.5 years, you must have been cash flow positive.
Yeah, more or less.
More or less, right?
More or less.
Kind of breaking even.
It was, it's an environment where if you don't make a sale, you don't get a paycheck. You don't eat, right? Yeah. And I went.
You eat what you kill.
I went 18 months with not a penny to me for the first, founding of it.
And I tell young entrepreneurs all the time, you haven't lived till you've done that, or it's Thursday night at 6 o'clock and payroll's due tomorrow morning on Friday, and you don't have the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're an entrepreneur.
We, don't tell. We did this like early on because like early employees, we knew like we're barely scraping by. Sometimes we could afford payroll, but we couldn't afford taxes, so we did pre-reimbursements.
Oh wow!
It's like, here's for some future travel that you might do. And then we got it all caught up later. But it's like, we just did what we had to do.
Yeah, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And so but 6.5 years with no external financing.
So
Is that right?
So why did you finally fundraise and go and take venture capital or outside dollars?
Yeah, what was the first investor? And it was an angel or?
Yeah, first investor was OpenView.
What year was this?
They're out of Boston. That was in 2007 or
Yeah, so you attracted a very notable East Coast.
2007.
A notable East Coast venture firm. In other words, this is a great strategy though, and a lot of entrepreneurs think the sign of success is real quickly and early raising money, but maybe that's not so much. 6.5 years, you made a stable company, and then OpenView recognizes the potential and invests in you.
Yeah, and that is the challenge. Like that is the question, because the longer you can build a stable business, the less equity that you're going to give up, and the better health you're going to be in as a founder. The temptation is, wow, I could raise money and get a nice office and look like I'm successful.
Yes.
And
that's the key. Look like I'm successful.
Yeah. And then hand over all my success to my investors, while I go get another job after an exit.
Yeah, because a little fast forward here is the day that you sold Workfront to Adobe, you still had a significant equity chunk.
Yeah, I was still the largest individual shareholder.
Yes, and that doesn't happen to most people that go the other path.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so coming back down to this, can I just, you don't have to answer any questions you don't want to answer.
Yeah.
But like when OpenView invested, I'm curious, like what terms and what was it done on? It's so long ago. What was that?
No, I'll tell you, because they made a ton of money.
Okay.
And the revenue you were doing, and like what were the stats of the
to
company?
give our listeners and viewers a perspective on what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, so we started that year. We had finished the previous year at like 2.2 million of revenue. This was before there were crazy multiples on SaaS.
Right.
Everything was pretty, pretty conservative. The year that we brought in the funding, we finished the year at 7.5 million. So, it was a good growth year.
Because you got the money, it helped you grow faster?
We were on our way. We were
on your way?
were starting to close some bigger contracts. And so we were on our way. But, it was still, the model was like trailing 12, show me your trailing 12.
Yeah.
And what really pushed me in that direction was there comes a time, like our nearest competitor was 200 employees, our nearest competitor, and we were 22 at the beginning of that year.
Yeah.
And you just see...
You were 22 people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were 200 people?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's our nearest competitor.
Yeah.
It's a company called eProject at the time. And, then you got like the Microsoft and the Hewlett Packard and computers. So they're huge. So you just see the evolution of the market. And if your competitors can take 10 steps for every one step that you take, at some point, you're like, it just gets tiring.
You want to level the playing field a little.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was really what pushed me in the direction of, we got to find a partner.
So what did OpenView give you?
OpenView was $6.5 million, and the post-money valuation was 22.5.
That's
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a 10x.
No, it wasn't. I don't think so. I think that's like a...
Well, the 22 post. He's saying he's saying your revenue multiple.
Sorry, I'm saying the revenue.
It was like a
multiple.
5.5, 6x, something like that.
On pre,
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, so we were thrilled. Like it.
And what year was that?
2007.
07?
Yeah.
Okay. 07.
Yeah.
Right before the fun part.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Even though tech, I'm a tech guy, you're a tech guy. We didn't get impacted quite the same in 08 to 012 as the real estate friends we have, right?
Yeah, we were growing really fast at the time, and I remember in 08, it was like mid-September of 08. There was another VC that came in and gave us really favorable terms. I mean, it was a big step up. What they wanted to do, it was like 80 million of valuation.
Yeah.
And I'm their CEO. I'm like, we don't really need it, but my gut says this would be a good thing for us to do. The board was like, well, what's your plan? And I'm like, I don't have a plan. I just, it's just like,
what was the round size at 80 million value? How much money were they going to give you?
It was maybe 18, 20 million-ish, something
Wow.
like
So
that.
did you not end up taking that deal?
Well, so here's what happened.
That's another 20,
Yeah.
25% of the company, though. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So what happened is the board finally said, okay, yeah, you should probably do this. So I had docs in hand. I got on a plane to New York. Plane landed. I was gonna say, it's like time to sign the docs and say, let's go. Landed. There's like people crowded around every screen in the airport, like crowds of people just staring at the screen. I'm like, what's going on? That was the day Lehman Brothers just shut down.
Really?
Yeah. And so like Lehman Brothers, like the whole world collapses.
And you were in New York.
And this VC that was a Bay Area VC goes completely dead silent. Like, I'm all, hey, let's get the deal done. Yeah. And next thing we heard from them, they're like, yeah, your valuation's now 15 million. And I go, no, we're not going to do that. So,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
That our friend,
Yeah, 'cause we didn't raise money
Our
again
friend
for
Scott Peterson. That
3
we have
years.
we have a friend Scott Peterson together, and going back, it's like a 911 event. He had a $8 million round about to close, and it was going to close the morning of September 11th, and that hits, or the day of September, and the 8 million never comes. And a month earlier, they had taken $1 million bridge loan from that venture capitalist. Mm-hmm. And then now was coming down to the close day on September 11th, 2001. And the VC tells him after that hits, he goes, yeah, we're not going to fund that. You owe us $1 million.
Yeah. And if you've lived through a few of these, and now we've lived through 3 of them,
Yeah.
you realize everything's relative.
Yeah. Matter of fact, in our venture fund, just to let you know, one of the things that sets us apart as a pre-seed investor from like a normal is just the experience and knowledge of the cycles. We, like in 2021, we didn't deploy a single dollar of capital. We harvested 7 companies.
Yeah.
And then in 22, 23, 24, when it started crashing, we said, now's the time to be investing.
Yeah,
right?
at the bottom.
And it's just this.
Good companies come out of those.
When Tyler faced the 2022 crash, just like anybody around 35 and under, they go, what's going on? Because we had been through a 10 plus year run up, and they didn't understand that these cycles are going to come just as sure as the sun's going to come up and go down, right? These cycles are going to happen. And you and I have lived through multiple cycles, so we know this happens.
Yeah.
And the first time when you're a young guy in business and it happens, you go, I thought this good times were going to last forever, right?
Never get too far over your skis.
Yeah, seriously.
Exactly.
Seriously.
So very, very interesting.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that deal crashed. It didn't happen. You didn't take it. But AtTask at the time was doing fine and great. You didn't
Yeah.
really need the money anyways.
We just did a kind of a linear growth for the next.
Were you kinda
We
happy?
didn't raise any more money until.
Were you kind of
2012.
happy that it didn't happen, or was it feel like a sock in the gut?
Well, it was like 3 years to get back to the valuation that you
Oh,
had
yeah.
already received. So
Yeah, 'cause
in
but-
some
but
ways
that's
that
not-
feels like a wow.
Yeah, but that's not your fault. That's a macroeconomic thing completely out of your control.
Right.
Your true value and inherent value is all still there.
Yeah. Okay, so you were you were definitely enterprise SaaS, right? Were you selling?
for sure.
You
We
were
sold to Fortune 100.
yeah, task management, project management software.
Yeah, we called it enterprise work management software. Yeah.
Yeah, to handle any kind of task at any kind of company.
So after that happened, and it took 3 years to get the back valuation, but how was it in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, during the Great Recession? How did the company do?
It was rough. Like companies tighten their belts. They
Because
pull back
if you're
on
selling to
deals.
enterprise, they're the ones hurt most, right?
Yeah, I remember our Q3 in that year. Our VP of sales had a forecast, and I think it was for the quarter, it was like $5.5 million. End of the quarter is 3 weeks away. He's like, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be $5.5 million. And we finished the quarter at like 2.8.
Oh wow!
Was he puffing
Like
smoke?
everything
Was he
just-
puffing smoke at you?
Everybody was just,
Wow.
well, look at what people did with tariffs. Like people love a reason to say
No.
no, or like we're going to wait and see.
Yeah, yeah.
Every election cycle, if you're selling software to businesses, they're going to be like, we're going to wait and see what the election result is.
Exactly.
First. You're like, so if it's one winner, what are you going to do? Plan A. If it's the other winner, what are you going to do? Plan A.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we just do plan A? No, we're going to wait and see, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they want the software, don't they want the software?
There's always a reason to wait. So, tariffs did that.
So then
2008 did that big time.
So when we come back, so then the timing here, just for perspective, and it's just fascinating to hear because it's such a great long-term story you have is in 2012, 2013, we start coming out of the recession. Is that when AtTask really took off?
We were at the end so I stepped out of day-to-day at Workfront at the end of 2012.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Brought in a CEO.
Hired gun.
Like a real
hired
CEO.
gun manager. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there, done that guy.
Were you CEO up until that point, though?
Yes.
Yes.
So in other words, to take it from 20 million to some bigger number.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So let's say the investors got sick of me and the recession.
Okay. Yeah.
It's time to grow faster.
Yeah.
Time to do things, differently. And what we were kind of thinking is prep for an IPO.
Yeah.
And that was the end of 2012, and I think we were about 350 employees at the time, something like that. And then end of 2020 was 1,500 employees.
Wow. Yeah. Scott, that's still I got to say such a compliment. Very, very few entrepreneurs can take it to 350 employees and 20 plus million. That's a skill set that's completely different than the startup skill set. So you obviously have some great management skills.
But what were the signs that told you, or the board, whoever implemented that new replacement, that new leadership was needed? Like what were the signs there?
Yeah, do we have to go there?
Was it a knock on you?
I'm going to tell a story that I haven't really told publicly too much. I'm going to keep it a very short version.
Okay, got it.
And you don't have to do this.
Here you go.
I was not prodding.
I'm going to do it.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go.
Viewers and listeners, you're getting some unique here. Here we go.
My close friends know this story. Imagine your founder, night before the board meeting, board member calls you up and says, tomorrow you're going to resign.
And you're like, what?
Yeah. And that's like the first warning you got. And he's like, we just think we need a been there, done that CEO. And I'm like, well, have you heard of coaching? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a coachable guy. What am I doing? Is it me?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong? Anyway, that's kind of how it went down. And logically, I'm like, look, there are people out there that are more experienced than me. This is my future.
Yeah.
Like, maybe this is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still chairman of the board. Like, I'm still going to have a front row seat at this.
Yeah.
And
so you accepted it.
it kind of upset my world.
But did it take a long time to accept that, or
it like destroyed my confidence.
Yeah, that's horrible.
I was in board meetings with the people that fired me.
Well, let's boost that confidence
and
a
I'm
little.
like, do these people even care about my ideas or not? Like,
Well, let's boost that confidence a little bit. What were the metrics of AtTask at that time? Like, you were doing really well.
We were kind of, I would say, slow and steady. We were growing like 35% per year.
Yeah.
Cash flow neutral.
Yeah.
But
there were revenue lines.
Were things that we definitely could have, like, I look back now, there are decisions that I would totally make now that I wouldn't have made, that I didn't make back then.
Yeah.
Things about just go-to-market strategy. And, one of the problems was we want to recruit a new sales leader. And I wanted like a rock star sales leader.
Yeah.
And all the rock star sales leaders that we interviewed reported back to the talent agency that was hired by some members on our board because they had a prior relationship. The report back was, this person is really good, but they wouldn't work for Scott. They would be CEO, but they wouldn't be his sales leader.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, there's a little bit of like, hey, if you want to get great talent, you got to be able to attract great talent. Scott's a nobody.
Yeah.
So let's fix that problem.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
we've all been through this. I've been through this. I've had, don't need to drag it out now, but I've had similar experiences. We also know others, the founders of Weave and the founders of other companies around here in the great Utah ecosystem have been through the same thing. At some point, you reach a point where the founder goes through that process, and it's I had to grasp it, and everybody is. It's not personal. It's actually they think they're making the right business decision, but being on the receiving end of it at first it literally is like somebody punched you in the stomach. You can't catch your breath for a while.
Oh yeah, it's like your first grandkid. They probably think the whole world revolves around them.
Yeah.
If you're a founder, you get accustomed to people.
Yeah.
Like just people want to be around you. They invite you to
king of the world,
blah, blah,
king of the
blah.
world, right?
On the other side, you realize nobody cares. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah. So interesting.
So okay, so you were involved then in the company, and that was what 2012. You said
2012. So
but you stayed chairman of the board for how long? The whole
to the
time?
end. Yeah,
all the way till 2020.
Yeah,
so you
that's
were
right.
heavily involved in like the acquisition and the exit strategy.
But
and
it was basically the day-to-day.
Yeah, there was no day-to-day.
No day-to-day operations.
Yeah. Which honestly is a pretty good gig.
yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't seem too bad, Scott.
It's not too, it
Now in
honestly
hindsight,
isn't
you
too
go,
bad.
hey, where can I get that job?
Right, exactly.
So what did you move on to in your day-to-day then in 2012? Is that when you took up teaching and a lot of other things?
I did take up teaching at BYU. Also, what happened, and I would, if you exit your company or get kicked out or whatever, I would say, don't be in a rush to get busy. I did notice that I had no idea how much I identified myself by what I did.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first thing that happens when you meet someone is they're like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good answer, you feel like a failure. As a guy, you're like, I don't know what I do. I don't know.
The way men's brains are wired. My wife and I have purposely studied this, and it's just interesting. And this is not a sexist remark at all. It's just men get their personal sense of self-worth from what they do. Women generally, and there's exceptions to this, but generally get it from their relationships and interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
And it's totally different. There's a lot of ramifications to that, by the way, in marriages that we won't talk about here. But with that said, it's by what you do. And I'm sure you went through a little bit of a tough time.
Yeah, and that leads directly to the founding of Motivosity.
I was going to say, enter Motivosity, right?
Yeah.
So for our viewers and listeners, tell them what Motivosity is. If you're
And what
Absolutely.
How long did you wait from the end of 2012 to start Motivosity?
Felt like forever. It was probably about 8 months.
8 months.
wow.
So here's what happened.
So give an overview. Oh yeah. Give the story of Motivosity.
I'll tell you what happened, and then that will help you understand what we do as a company. So at Workfront, we did everything any tech company would ever do to take care of their people, from a perks and benefits and recognition and events and parties and break rooms and all the stuff that you do to attract and retain great talent and be a best place to work.
Yeah.
We did all of it, and we were a best place to work. And when I stepped out of the day-to-day at Workfront, there were people that I had worked with for a long time, and they started coming to me saying, I don't think anybody really cares about what I'm doing, and it kind of, just feels like a job. I think I'm going to look for another opportunity. And I'm like, I don't know how a company could care more about what you're doing. So that just was a problem that started bugging me. And I was thinking, if this is a problem at Workfront, this is a problem everywhere. Mm-hmm. You can't have great talent feeling like they don't matter.
underappreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So combine that with, my newfound understanding that people need to be appreciated and recognized and connected. Like, I started kind of a psychology nerd. There's a lot of positive psychology in those questions.
Yeah.
And my conclusion was, you're not going to replace all the managers in the world. Like, we have a problem, which is managers become managers because they're good at their job, so we promote them to a completely different job. Right. And these aren't people that went to school to learn how to be good with people.
It's like taking the best salesman and make him a sales manager.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Now you're supposed to motivate people.
Yeah.
Well, you might
and then your sales go down because you took your best sales rep and made him a manager.
Yeah, and guess what? Executives are even worse. And the whole chain is paid on productivity. They're not paid on being good with people.
Yeah.
And so you have this inherent problem in companies of just how do the employees have a consistent positive experience? And the only way to do that is democratize and empower the front line and have this problem get solved in reverse. Everybody thinks it's a management problem to solve. But if you empower people, they do good things. So that's what Motivosity is. It's the software platform that gives you the technology and tools to empower your people to be more gratitude-centric, more connected with each other, and have a greater sense of community and tie a connection to company values, and it enhances culture. And the cool thing about it is the more that happens, the more it happens. It's a virtuous cycle. And so the trick is you have to create a software platform that 95% of all of your people will use on their own with no prompting whatsoever, and use it on a regular basis. And so that was the design goal.
So, and are you selling these to larger companies? What like SMBs?
Yeah. So we've got companies that are 40 and 50 employees that use it, and we've got companies that are 50,000 employees.
Okay.
And everything in between.
And so what's like who at the company are you selling this to? The HR department? Is it a C-suite? What is it?
Yeah.
Who's the champion?
It typically goes through the people organization. So HR, chief people officer, total rewards, culture.
Okay.
Those groups in companies. C-suite will typically defer to them on any kind of a people initiative.
Was this a immediate success, a slow burn? What was it? And because you're now more than 10 years into it.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me, old John.
Hey,
I'm feeling old too.
Workfront was 19 apparently, so there you go, or more, 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So this space that we're in is interesting because really every other competitor started with a mission of let's make it easy for companies to give people stuff. And so for us, this was a slow burn and a hard sale because we're out there saying, we want to help you change people for the better. And they're like, I want to send a jacket once every 3 years to my employees. And we're like, why do you, that's great. Nothing says, I love what you do every day more than a free jacket every 3 years.
Yeah.
But, with the company logo on it.
With a company logo on it. But you can, that has an impact. If you get it on a Friday, Monday still happens, right?
Yeah.
Like it's still the daily work is what impacts your life. And if you can have a positive interaction 52 times a year or more, that's so much more powerful. And so that was the sale that we're making. It's like, let's take the high road together. And but we're growing. We've been in Inc. 5000, I think, the last 4 or 5 years in a row.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So how many employees is it now?
Now we're just over 100.
Really?
Look at you. You're operational on that one.
Yeah, we're cash neutral.
You're the CEO, and you're so what a track record to get a company up to 100 employee status, and with whatever millions of dollars of revenue that is, that do it twice right in succession. That's also super rare.
Yeah.
I have a great gift to be able to bang my head against a wall until money comes out.
But one of the 4, there's a list of traits that are super important in entrepreneurship. And one of the most important is tenacity.
Yeah.
And would you say you're tenacious?
Yeah, it's been a very stubborn, like I'm a patient guy.
Yeah. But patience is one thing, but you can be patient in a passive way. But if you combine patience with tenacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because stuff doesn't happen overnight. Like a lot of people around Utah, the biggest deal in Utah history is which company? Qualtrics, right?
Mm-hmm.
$8 billion sale, right? Okay. And a lot of the younger entrepreneurs go, because they waited like 12, 14 years before taking any money. I mean, people don't realize they were in Scott's basement for 8+ years. Then they were, Scott Smith, right?
Yeah.
And then they were in a dingy office on Canyon Road in Provo, which I visited with dirty doors and all that for like 4 years more. And that's just, people think, oh, it's an overnight success. No way. First of all, every overnight success you see has years of toil behind it, right?
Well, yeah,
that's tough when you're 8 years into it and you're like, why don't we meet at Starbucks because our office is so embarrassing.
I know.
You know?
And so, but the point is that it's just when you take a look at these things, it's just crazy how it takes longer than you think.
Honestly,
right?
when I was
It's
doing the research for this podcast and looking into your background a little bit, I was a little bit shocked that AppTask was 2001 officially, but really 1999 all the way up to 2020.
You thought it was more of an overnight success.
Well,
right?
not overnight, but I thought that it was like a more of a
Excuse me.
a 2012 business to 2020 business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it was not that way.
So let's go.
That was when the rebrand happened.
Yeah. Why did you rebrand, by the way?
Yeah, that you didn't
Because
talk about
AdTask
that.
was
Yeah.
great.
Let's
Well, it's
take
such a dated
2-minute segue into the rebrand. Then I want to ask a couple more
Okay.
things on Motivosity, but rebrand.
Yeah, so naming. We were kitschy when we started with the little @ sign and task was our name. And, so many years of people like, what's the task company? They don't even get the name right. And you're on the phone saying @ sign, or and then they try and type that in the URL. And you're like, no, the URL is ATTASK.
I think you rebranded
And-
to @task, the words,
Yeah,
right?
we rebranded to the word was the first one, but then as we went upstream, and you start to have $2 and $3 million contracts, and a CEO in a company is like, "Why are we spending $2 million on task management?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get like, you got to figure that out. And we weren't task management. We were like this whole, it's the investment portfolio and risk management and visibility into work top to bottom, and like resources and all these things that we
And
did.
Workfront-
It was
Workfront
like
really-
ERP for work.
Workfront
It was
worked
not
for you.
task management.
Workfront worked for you, right?
Workfront is an awesome name. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did you do? Who came up with that? How did you figure that out?
Hired an agency. I remember they did their whole big study. They came back with 3 names. 2 of them were just the worst.
Yeah.
Like one of them I remember was Ventress.
Ventress.
And then Workfront. Like it's a clear winner, right? But Workfront domain was already taken. I'm like, this is gonna stink because we have to have it. It has to be Workfront.
Did you go buy it?
So we hired somebody to go and go and inquire about it, and the person responded and said, some ridiculous number, and they said, we'll buy it for $1,500, and they said yes.
Oh my gosh! You got it for 15.
Yeah, we got it.
You got it for a 2-word.
$1,500. Yeah.
What the crap? That's a great buy.
Yeah.
That is okay. So on Motivosity, I just want to ask a question. So exactly though, if I have a 200-person company or a 100-person company, what am I getting with Motivosity? What is it exactly doing for me? Like what's the product? And I'm going to couch it with this statement. I was at Google for 2 years. I think you know that. I don't know if you know that. And they had an internal program, and I might have even talked to you about this in the past, but called Kudos. Have you heard of Kudos?
Yeah.
And it was a peer-to-peer way for one employee to tell another employee, thanks for the good work you did to help me on something.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of an interesting thing that I got introduced to in a large organization of how they're trying to do a peer-to-peer solution or something like that. But what does Motivosity do to motivate employees and keep
That
them?
is very, very similar to what we do. So at the core of our product is think of it as like a Facebook internally in your company.
Like a social.
But what's in the social feed is highlights, wins, people appreciating each other. An employee in a company will get, it's typically like $5 at the beginning of every month. Use it or lose it. You appreciate people around you $1 at a time.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's, the peer-to-peer is a big part of it. That's what gets 95% of employees in there.
That's what I was saying.
Four times a month, every month.
And so instead of a company going to all the trouble of building their own system to make this happen and do it, you have a SaaS solution, put it right into your company, and you get it going.
Yep. Yeah. And people are surrounded with positivity. They become better. It makes them better people, not just at work, but in their life, because people become more gratitude centric, trying to look for the good. And by the way, when you observe what's good in people, it has a bigger impact on their performance than actual performance management does.
Okay, last question. How about metrics around that? Have you done studies or post analytics or something where you can say, when you're going out and pitching, saying, here's the impact it's had in these companies?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, recency bias, since we just published this video yesterday, we did a customer case study, and CEO of the company is up there saying, hey, before Motivosity, we were, our industry, we were kind of struggling. Our ENPS, which is Employee Net Promoter Score, was -1, which isn't terrible, but it's not world class either. It's just kind of like typical blog
It's a job.
company.
It's a job.
It's a job. Yeah, exactly. All they did was implement Motivosity. And their numbers were within, I can't remember if it was 7 months or 8 months, ENPS was 60. So massive improvement on ENPS. The customer referrals from employees went up threefold. Employee referrals from employees went up by double. Turnover went way down, and it's all because people feel like they're part of something now. So this really ties them to company values. It gets the eyeballs and engagement, and then all the other top-down things that you do as a company, like giving out jackets or swag or having spot bonuses or other kinds of really
Rewards.
formal, wellness challenges, awards, LSAs. Now that all the eyeballs are in there, you put all those in the platform too, and all of your programs have more impact.
Awesome.
So-
hey, we're short on time, and I got to ask the moderator. I have two things I'd like to cover with Scott before that are really good, but I think,
Okay, what?
Because we're kind of low on time, but I want to ask two things from you. I want to ask quick list of tips for the budding entrepreneur, somebody that was where you were at when you had your services business and were thinking of doing something productized in that realm. What would you tell yourself back then? What would you tell that kind of person that's in that situation now? That's the first question.
Yeah,
then I want to segue over, because I know your wife and we're friends, and we've, as couples, we've traveled together and done things, right? I want to know, how did you keep your family and marriage and everything together while being such a tenacious entrepreneur? I'd like to hear your thoughts on both of those.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I like both of those questions.
Okay.
So the first one, advice would be stay scrappy. And what I mean by that is people have an idea and they start to see a little bit of success, and your immediate temptation is, I'm going to go sell it to as many people as I possibly can. And I'd say, hold on until you have product market fit.
Yeah.
And, seems obvious, but what product market fit looks like is that your customers are actually echoing back to you the promise that you made when you made the sale. And when you say, would you buy this again? You hear words like love, amazing, can't live without it.
Yeah.
You hear these magic emotional words that let you know you've really struck a chord.
When did that moment happen with AtTask? Like, how long into you felt like, okay, we have product market fit, like we are hitting this?
So product or project management, task management is a really weird industry. Nobody's ever happy.
Yeah.
So we didn't get that in spades at Workfront. We had decent renewal rates. So we had, high 80%. Logo retention, which is it's okay. That's decent. But we didn't just get the love. With Motivosity, it's been night and day. Like, we get massive love.
Yeah.
And so,
Because you're moving the needle.
Yeah,
them,
and people are just, you walk into a company and they're like, oh, you're with this company. This is the best thing we've ever done. Like, we're so happy you're here. And
so to summarize that advice, what was the advice? Like, stay scrappy until you have product market fit?
The advice is pay close attention to your product market fit before you go out and try and hire a bunch of salespeople and
let me quote
scale
Tyler.
the company.
I'm going to quote you. Tyler just was with me as we taught a multi-billion-dollar public company how to bring lean startup into their company. We just did that and we're out of town for a few days training that company. And it's the saying is, grow up before you grow fast. In other words, grow up as a company, meaning that you have achieved that where your churn is low and your customers are raving about you.
Yeah.
That's say, get that before you step on the accelerator.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I mean, if you're
And that's what we teach in our boot. We teach that in our boot camp. religiously.
If you're not getting past, like if you're in the 70% logo retention annually, you might not have a company in 5 years, regardless of the.
To our listeners and viewers, the mathematics behind it is this: you kind of want to keep your churn less than 2% a month, and if you even start approaching near 7%. The math, when you plot it out, you can't grow fast enough to make up for that.
Right. Yeah. And it's easier to solve that problem when you're, with 4 employees.
I mean, it's easier to pivot a 2-person company than it is a 200-person company.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I like that advice. Do you have any other advice? What would you tell yourself, your 20-year-old, your 25, your 30-year-old self? Anything else?
I'll noodle on that for a minute.
Yeah, noodle on that. Okay, back to the family,
day,
wife.
day in the life.
Yeah.
So really wanted to have, family is super important to me.
Right.
Life was crazy. Here was a typical day. And no lie, this was at least 4 days a week, if not more. I'd be in the office by 7:30 in the morning, come home, have dinner, and then I'd read to the kids for an hour. I'd lay on the floor. They'd lay all over me. I'd read a story. Sometimes I'd fall asleep while I was reading. Put them to bed around 7:30, then go back to the office. We used to bring dinner into the office at midnight.
Wow.
3-4 times a week. We'd take a break, watch an episode of The Office, work till 3 a.m., and then go home. And that was when there was 20 people. So it was like just an unhuman effort to keep up with.
I tell that exact same story. And so I think what I'm reading there is one of the tips is that if you're married, if you have a family, be home for dinner, spend time with the kids, get them to bed, be a good dad, be a good mom.
Yep.
And then you can go back to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I never worked on Sunday. So there was, it was Sunday and then those precious few hours.
Yeah. Who is that core team around you with those late nights putting in that kind of work, those 20 people? Like that must have been good times.
Yeah, great times. One of them's my chief product officer at Motivosity.
Oh, he's still around.
Yeah, he wasn't traumatized.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, okay. That's amazing. Any other questions?
I just wanted... This sage wisdom is so valuable for our listeners and viewers. So we thank you for being here today.
Anything else you want to leave? Any parting words? Anything you didn't get to sneak in there?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, but I think a lot of listeners will be interested in hearing your story because you've achieved a lot of success that I think every single person listening to this podcast would like to achieve. Right? So it's like. All the stories to get there, every milestone, every bad, every good is like really important.
Yeah, let me remind our listener and viewers in case they don't get this math. If you're the founder of a company that bootstraps for 6.5 years until you're at millions in revenue, and then you exit someday in the future for $1.5 billion, you're going to come out okay.
I guess that, your other question about other advice, it would just be, guard your equity. Like, be generous with cash. Don't be generous with equity.
Yeah.
Equity doesn't motivate people to do a better job. You're not going to get better results out of somebody by giving them more equity.
Yep.
Does cash do that? Have you experienced that?
Cash is very short term.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So plus cash is like you can structure it in a way that is, a little more performance based. But
you can't always get more equity.
You can hold on.
Equity only dilutes. You can't add to equity, right? So, but you can always get more cash through investors or selling more, right? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Otherwise, you could be a founder exiting your company and owning like 0.5% or something.
Oh my
of
gosh,
your own company.
people. Listeners and viewers, what he just said, because how many times this week have I said it, Tyler, in the teaching? It's so, there's like 2 ways to go. The way you win is the way we believe things should be done. Conserve your equity. Be careful with it. Going down this path where you raise tons of money, you get a pre-seed investment, then a seed investment, then another seed investment, then a Series A, a Series B, a Series C. Those entrepreneurs, and then when there's this huge exit, who makes all the money?
Yeah, investors.
Yeah. And what happens is people don't understand. It's very common for those founders to have in the single percentiles of their company.
Carta continuously releases the venture data that they pull from all of the companies and startups and private companies that they service and have information
a macro view at it.
Macro view. And they always are releasing the average round and equity size that venture investors at each stage are wanting to take, man, if you stop at every one of those stages and each of them on average are wanting 15 to 20% on each of those stages, man, you're diluted to oblivion. So it's like, if you're raising one time and want to build $1 billion company, we're here for you. That's the kind of startups we want to invest in. So, okay, let's wrap it up. Thank you, Scott.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.
I hope you had fun.
Yeah,
I did. This is great.
And thank you for tuning in today. Scott's journey from bootstrapping to $1.5 billion acquisition is probably as inspiring as it gets. So listen to this man's words. If you find it valuable, like, subscribe, share it with your founder friends, share it with your startup friends, and we're here for you. And we're excited. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Scott.
And we're going to wrap up the episode.